Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Madhava ki, Shri Radha Radhanath ki. Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrakacharya Stotra Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, BBT founder Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Senapati Bhakta Srila Prabhupada ki, Mantra Upasaka Srila Prabhupada ki, Savior of the whole world Srila Prabhupada ki, Preeminent Shiksha Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivrakacharya Stotra Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Ganga Maya ki, Yamuna Maya ki, Tulsi Maharani ki, Bhakti Deva ki, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki, Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, Text number 21. You can repeat after me. Vidur Uvacha Tasya Shila Nidya Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katam Abud Dushta Praja Yad Vimana Yayao Vidur Uvacha Tasya Shila Nide Sador Tasya Shila Nide Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katham Abuddhushta Ragya Katham Adbuddhushta Prajayad Vimana Yayao Prajayad Vimana Yayao Vidur Uvacha Tasya Shila Nidya Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katham Adbuddhushta Prajayad Vimana Yayao Dura Uvacha Tasya Shila Nidya Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katham Adbuddhushta Prajayad Vimana Yayao Vidura Uvacha Tasya Shila Nidya Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katham Adbuddhushta Prajayad Vimana Yayao Vidura Uvacha Tasya Shila Nidya Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katham Adbuddhushta Prajayad Vimana Yayao Vidura Uvacha Tasya Shila Nidya Sador Brahmanyasya Mahatmana Ragya Katham Adbuddhushta Prajayad Vimana Yayao Vidura Uvacha Vidura said, Tasya of him, Anga, Shila Nidya, reservoir of good characteristics, Sadho, saintly person, Brahmanyasya, lover of Brahmanical culture, Mahatmana, great soul, Ragya, of the king, Katham, how, Abut, it was, Dushta, bad, Praja, son, Yat, by which, Vimana, being indifferent, Yayao, he left. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki. Vidura inquired from the sage Maitreya, my dear Brahmana, King Anga was very gentle, he had high character and was saintly, and was a saintly personality and lover of Brahmanical culture. How is it that such a great soul got a bad son like Vyana, because of whom he became indifferent to his kingdom and left it? Purport. In family life, a man is supposed to live happily with father, mother, wife, and children. But sometimes, under certain conditions, a father, mother, child, or wife becomes an enemy. It is said by Chanakya Pandit that a father is an enemy when he is too much in debt. A mother is an enemy if she marries for a second time. A wife is an enemy when she is very beautiful. And a son is an enemy when he is a foolish rascal. In this way, when a family member becomes an enemy, it is very difficult to live in family life or remain a householder. Generally, such situations occur in the material world. Therefore, according to Vedic culture, one has to take leave of his family members just after his 50th year, so that the balance of his life may be completely devoted in search of Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Be'evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priya. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The translation again. Vidura inquired from the sage Maitreya, "My dear Brahmana, King Anga was very gentle. He had high character and was a saintly personality and lover of Brahmanical culture. How is it that such a great soul got a bad son like Vena, because of whom he became indifferent to his kingdom and left it?" Hare Krishna. The title of this chapter is called The Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj. In this verse, there are two names given, Anga and Vena. Both of them come in the lineage of Dhruva Maharaj. Anga and Vena are also father and son, respectively. In this verse, Vidura is speaking and inquiring from his guru, Maitreya, how is it possible that someone as pious as King Anga able to have such a terrible son like King Vena? Some of the characteristics of King Anga is described here. He is gentle, he has good character, he is saintly, and King Anga is a lover of Brahmanical culture. By having all these good qualities, King Anga was more like a Brahmana rather than a Kshatriya. The possibility of having a bad son is practically a zero. In the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila explains to his mother that what happens when a child is conceived, and he explains it from two perspectives. His first point comes from the act of reproduction, that the man's consciousness attracts a particular type of soul. The soul or the jiva enters the semen and during reproduction enters the womb of the woman. If the man has good consciousness, he will naturally attract a good-natured soul. If he has bad consciousness, then by default he will attract a bad-natured soul. Lord Kapila also explains the conception of a child from the perspective of Yamaraj. All jivas that have come to the abode of Yamaraj, either to go to the heavenly planets or to be punished in the hellish planets, will eventually have to be reincarnated. And depending on the qualities and character of the individual, Yamaraj will send that soul to become the child of a man who has similar qualifications. So King Anga shouldn't have had a bad son like Vena, even if his son was a mixed devotee or a devotee of a demigod. His son shouldn't have been as bad as King Vena was. As you'll see in the upcoming verses, King Anga will perform a sacrifice for the pleasure of Vishnu and with the desire to beget a qualified son. Even with the mercy which came from the remnants of sacrifice, King Vena was born with bad qualities. King Vena was a terrible person, even from childhood. One description says that Vena would play with his friends, and while playing with them, he would kill them. When the citizens of the kingdom would see Vena, they would become very fearful because they knew that Vena takes pleasure in cruel activities. Vena's behavior was so bad that King Anga one day just chose to leave his kingdom, and by default, Vena became the next king, which made it worse for society as there were no one to check him or stop him. Vena being the king, according to Vedic understanding, Shri Shri Radha Radhanar ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. According to Vedic understanding, the king is the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Vena had such a twisted personality that he believed that he was God. He thought that everyone is meant to worship him, the demigods are his subordinates. There was no good qualities in King Vena. And maybe one to a certain extent. And that was Vena being so cruel that even criminals didn't dare to live in his kingdom. How did King Anga get such an evil son? The answer to Vidura's inquiry is found in text 39 of the same chapter. There it's discovered that Vena is partially part of an irreligious dynasty. His grandfather is Mrityu, death personified. Because of association, Vena became an irreligious person. There are a couple of points to be understood in this regard. The first one, how did someone as pious as King Anga get married to someone from an irreligious family? And the second one, how is irreligion defined from the Vedic perspective? In Vedic culture, irreligion or atheism is defined in two perspectives. People who don't follow the Vedas at all, and people who do follow the Vedas but are not devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are different levels of what it means to be irreligious. The common example amongst the followers of the Vedas is the teachings of Lord Buddha. His teaching specifically denies the authority of the Vedas, and because of that, those who follow such teachings are considered to be atheists. Irreligion amongst the followers of the Vedas consists of those who worship the demigods but refuse to acknowledge the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are considered irreligious. Persons who are practicing spiritual life in the form of Brahman realization or Paramatma realization, but are not favorable to the Supreme Lord, are also considered to be irreligious. So King Anga's wife is the daughter of Mrityu, death personified. And according to the knowledge of Bhagavatam and other similar literatures, death personified is a follower of the Vedas, and more specifically, Mrityu is the follower of Yamaraj. Yamaraj goes by another name, Dharmaraj, the king of religion, or the lord of judgment, if you want to get technical. So how can an irreligious dynasty be irreligious when they serve and are servants of Dharmaraj? In the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we find that no one knows Dharma better than the Yamadutas. The Yamadutas know religious law forwards and backwards. Whatever work they perform, whatever work they get from Yamaraj, they perform their duties perfectly. But there's one problem. They believe that Yamaraj is the supreme. They do not know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because of that, they are considered to be irreligious. To add fuel to fire, the followers of Yamaraj have developed a habit and culture by which they find pleasure in causing trouble and torturing others. It's a form of entertainment and enjoyment for these kinds of people. I brought this up in order to give you some background information for a pastime I'm going to tell you now. This pastime is called the meeting of Anga and Sunita, the daughter of Mrityu. It comes from the Padma Puran. The pastime entails the personalities like King Anga, his wife, and their son Vena, eventually leading up to the appearance of Prithu Maharaj. This pastime from Padma Purana is a little different from the pastime that comes from the Bhagavatam. Either that the pastime took place in another age or another day of Lord Brahma. In this pastime, King Anga went to perform penance and austerities in order to please the Supreme Lord. He was in a secluded place. Then we have Sunita, Mrityu's daughter. She and her girlfriends had gone exploring, and they happened upon a very beautiful forest. They would go around seeing the sights, and one day they found a Gandharva. This Gandharva also happened to be a Brahmana, and he was engaged in tapasya, penance and austerities, for the sake of pleasing the goddess of music, Saraswati. This Gandharva Brahmana was innocent, minding his own business, engaged in his own determination, not disturbing others. But for some reason, when these girls discovered this Brahmana, they got this incredible idea which they thought was fun, and that was to disturb the Gandharva Brahmana while he was engaged in yoga practice. Every day the girls would visit some part of the forest and they would come to disturb the Brahmana. The Brahmana would yell at the girls, "Leave me alone, get out of here, don't disturb me." This would continue for a short period until Sunita decides to take it up a notch. One day she and her girlfriends came to disturb the Brahmana, but Sunita came in front of the Brahmana, was meditating, and she decided to hit him. It was a hit and run situation. Prior to this, the Brahmana was just annoyed, but now he got angry. Although he was angry, the Brahmana didn't retaliate. Instead, he chose not to lower himself to the behavior of these girls. But the next day, it happened again. This time, the Brahmana decided to teach this girl Sunita a lesson. He cursed her to have an evil, wicked child. Later on, Sunita returned to her home and told her father about what had happened. What happened after that? Her father, Mrityu, chastised her. Sunita, having learnt a lesson, gave up her habit of troubling others, and she went to engage in yoga practice. On occasion, her friends would visit her. They would do whatever girls do whenever they get together. And they would walk around exploring the area. One day, Sunita and her friends came across a young man who was effulgent and very attractive looking. Sunita became very much attracted to this young man, but she remembered the curse from the Brahmana and didn't know what to do. So she asked her friend for help. Sunita's friend, her name is Ramba. She used her mystical powers to create a very amorous atmosphere around Sunita, and Ramba told her not to say anything and to let her speak. Like this, they approached the young man, and this man happened to be King Anga. When Anga saw Sunita, he thought of her as such a nice girl. And how innocent looking she is, that she was so shy that she couldn't speak. Somehow or other, the conversation between King Anga and Ramba went into the direction of marriage. Ramba said, "My friend will only marry you under the condition that you will never abandon her." And King Anga agreed. But if Anga knew what his wife really was like, he'd probably have a different pastime. I'd also like to talk about association. Srila Prabhupada said that 90% of advancement in Krishna consciousness comes from devotee association. Likewise, association in any direction will cause you to develop as an individual going in the same direction. If you put yourself in bad association, you are almost guaranteed to develop bad qualities. For a newly born child, the child's first associate is the mother. The mother is the first guru. If the first teacher's teachings are faulty, then all the knowledge that the child absorbs from any teacher that comes after will also be faulty. King Vena is proof of that. There are similar situations of bad association that are mentioned in different parts of the Bhagavatam and other Vedic literatures. Ravana is also a son of a Brahmana, and his mother was a Rakshasi. And much of Ravana's association was with the Rakshasas. The same situation is found in Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu's found in Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, who are the sons of a Brahmana, Kashyapa, and their mother Diti. Diti had some jealousy towards her sister Aditi, the mother of the demigods. Somehow that jealousy was imbibed by her children, and the descendants of Diti, the descendants of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, are now in conflict with the demigods. When you read Prabhupada Leelamrita, a similar situation is found in Prabhupada's Grihastha life. His wife had this addiction for tea. His children also would sit together and drink tea, even though Prabhupada himself never went out of his way to have such beverages. If the first teacher in your life taught you wrong, then how you absorb information is also going to be wrong. No matter how much one engages in devotional service and thinks that they are safe in the material world is also wrong. Safety only comes in the association of devotees. Bad association will cause your intelligence to be stolen by Maya. You are not safe from the influence of bad association. Even if you are the son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We see such an example when we read Krishna book. There was this demon that had the hobby of kidnapping princesses. Eventually, Krishna had killed the demon and saved the princesses, and that's how he got 16,100 more wives. So that demon was actually the son of Bhumi, the goddess of the earth. This demon also happened to be the son of Varahadev, the boy incarnation of the Lord. This demon wasn't always a demon. It is only when he made friendship with the demon that he started to develop demoniac qualities. Because of developing bad habits, family members can turn into enemies. Prabhupada elaborates this in the purport, and he's given a few examples quoting Chanakya Pandit. I'll try to speak on these examples. The first one, when the father is too much in debt, a person can only land himself in such a situation is due to lack of self-discipline. For example, having a father that is addicted to intoxication. A father usually being the breadwinner, the provider, but instead of using his wealth for taking care of his family, his dependents, he spends it on sense gratification. That person is an enemy. Likewise, a father to be addicted to gambling. It's an even worse situation if your father lost everything and chose to gamble his property and family members, or owes a lot of money that's too difficult to pay back. Such a person is an enemy. The second example that Prabhupada gives is when a mother marries for a second time. This is an interesting point. It's not said if a widow remarried or a divorcee remarried, but a mother. This means that the perspective should be taken from the child's point of view. Generally, in a marriage, a couple develop a lifestyle by which they can live with each other peacefully. By the time the couple has a child, although the parents would have to make some kind of compromise, the lifestyle or the environment doesn't change all that much, and the child will grow up in that environment or lifestyle. But when a mother marries for the second time, she's now creating a new lifestyle, a new environment with a new spouse. While the mother is adjusting to her circumstances, the child is undergoing a different psychological impact. The child's lifestyle, environment, and family bonds are changing at a rapid pace that the child isn't able to comprehend. Now he is put in a situation where there is a woman who looks like his mother and talks like his mother, but doesn't behave like the mother he used to know. The child is confused and doesn't understand that the mother has subconsciously transitioned out of motherhood and into maidenhood. The child does not understand that the mother is prioritizing her romance with her new husband, and that she is unknowingly becoming neglectful of her child. The mother may be thinking that the child has food and shelter and she doesn't need to do anything else. And now she can concentrate on her second marriage. But the child is thinking that he has been abandoned and is alone, and he has to navigate the world on his own. Such a mother is an enemy. And the situation for children is even worse for people who engage in illicit sex life and have unplanned children. The third enemy that Prabhupada gives is to have a beautiful wife. Many years ago, during Radhastami, His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj was here and he was speaking about the gopis of Vrindavan, and he was speaking about siddhis or mystical powers. He explained that the bodies of the gopis are made up of various mystical powers, Anima, Mahima, Lagima, and so on. All these powers exist on the bodies of the gopis. Keep that point in mind. I'm going to make another point. One of the common reasons why we are in the material world is because of envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Lord sends such persons to the material world. The material world, on the other hand, will give you a material body based on the impressions that you have. So if you were envious of Krishna, you will have impressions of Krishna's physical appearance. So the material world will provide you a body that is an imitation of Krishna's body. Likewise, if you are envious of Srimati Radharani, the material nature will provide you a body that is an imitation of Radharani's appearance. So back to the first point I made, the gopis' bodies are made up of mystical powers. Then the body of a woman, which is an imitation, will also have imitation mystical power. This is somehow translated as beauty according to our minute intelligence. If we have too much bad karma because of impiety, those mystical powers become covered, and that translates to being less attractive. But for a pious woman, these mystical powers become very influential amongst the general populace, and this translates to being very attractive. Women who are very beautiful can practically obtain anything they want within the material world. His Holiness Bhaktipriyad Bhagavat Swami Maharaj would sometimes make this point that when he gives class, when a woman leaves her hair untied, men go mad. If beauty can be compared to a sword is a dangerous weapon. If you don't know how to properly handle a sword, you could accidentally harm yourself and others around you. That is why swords have a sheath. When the sword is not in use, the sword is placed into a sheath. That way the blade cannot cause any harm to anyone. In the same way, which is seen amongst older women, they don't leave their hair out on display. They take their veil and they cover their hair. And the same idea goes for the rest of a woman's appearance. In that way, a woman withdraws her influence over the environment. But for a woman who purposely leaves her beauty out on display, she's going to attract trouble that's maybe beyond her own control. She's going to attract trouble to her husband or to society in general. And if you are married to such a wife, then she is considered to be an enemy. In Krishna book, when Nanda Maharaj is hosting a celebration for the appearance of his son Krishna, there's a small part that focuses on Rohini, the mother of Balaram. Prabhupada explains that a wife should not decorate herself in the absence of her husband. The fourth enemy, when one has a foolish son or a rascal son. In most cases, a spoiled child will tend to become a rascal as they grow older. Many examples of spoiled children can be found on social media. There was a young boy who wanted a new cell phone, but his parents saw no reason to get their child a new phone because their child had a phone that was perfectly able. But somehow this kid got the idea that if he breaks the phone that he already has, his parents will have no choice but to get him a new phone. Another example, a father bought his daughter a car worth hundreds and thousands of dollars, but the daughter crashed the car. Why did she crash the car? She didn't like the color. These kinds of children are considered to be enemies of family life. For a boy, entering the brahmachari ashram at a young age is most important. By entering the brahmachari ashram, the child or the boy is separated from his family's wealth. He has to live a frugal life under the direction of the spiritual master. In that way, society will humble the brahmachari. And by the time the brahmachari graduates from the Gurukul and returns to his family, all the luxury that he would receive will be much more greatly appreciated. I'll stop over here. Any questions or comments? Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
That was really nice. Okay, so I have a question though. We talked about intoxication, right? See, that is the first principle, no intoxication for a devotee. And there's one thing I do not understand, right? So I can understand that alcohol, it's bad, right? But when it comes to drugs, I have this question. It's kind of like, it's weird, but bear with me. So there are different types of drugs, right? And people do different kinds. And people that are like non-devotees, they do drugs to like, to enjoy themselves or to like have fun, right? And there are gymnasts, bodybuilders who do drugs that are called PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, right? To get muscular or whatever. And there's the third drug, which is called a prescribed drug, right? The doctor can prescribe that drug. And there's a study that was made a few years ago that actually proved that painkillers, they kill people. There's a study that that was made. So I want to understand that are we saying that we should like as a devotee, you can take drugs but only if it's prescribed by a doctor? Because these kinds of drugs can also make you feel kind of dizzy sometimes, and wouldn't we consider that an intoxicant?
All the things you described is an intoxication. But in certain situations, one would get prescriptions from an authorized person, like a doctor, which would prescribe a type of drug in order to fill some deficiency in the body. And so the devotee would take these medication for the purpose of healing the body, and so that he or she can continue practicing Krishna consciousness without having any obstacles. But if one independently tries to do tries to take medication and so forth, and they decide to overdose, then it becomes abusive, and this can lead to a very bad situation. So that's not recommended. In the Bhagavatam, speaking in regards to meat eating as an example, if you're placed in a situation where there is absolutely nothing to eat, it's a life and death situation, and there's nothing to eat. Only at that point, meat eating is allowed. You understand the situation? So in the same way, for the welfare of the body, taking a certain drug to heal the body is recommended. Is that okay? Anyone else has a comment?
Thank you, Prabhu. That was a really nice class. I just wanted to appreciate the different references you gave. Story of the Brahmana, that was a really nice one. And then also Devamrita Maharaj's comment on the mystical cities and the way you explained that, it was really nice in relation to the purport. Thank you, Prabhu.
Granted Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
His Grace Ananta Shesh Prabhu, okay.